this story and this place remind us each day of what it means to be an American. In times of strife, we Americans, we come together. We comfort each other. We protect each other. And we stand up for each other. This memorial is a powerful reminder of what we have lost, but it's also a powerful reminder of the strength of the American spirit and of what we can do when we come together for the greater good of each of us. September 11th, 2001 was one of our nation's darkest days. And now, 20 years later, we look back and remember the people who brought light to that darkness and who gave us hope when we were all sunk in despair, who reminded us how far we Americans can go to protect our fellow Americans. It's their example that each of us should strive to follow today and every day. Thank you very much.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
National Park Service has enjoyed the support of several partners in establishing this amazing memorial. We are grateful, of course, to the families of Flight 93, the friends of Flight 93, the National Park Foundation, and to all of those who have helped make the memorial what it is today, 20 years after September 11th. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Mr. Gordon Felt, the president of the families of Flight 93. He is the brother of passenger Edward Porter Felt and has long been the key spokesperson for the families. I've known Gordy for several years now, and I greatly admire his unwavering commitment to the Flight 93 National Memorial and to the 40 heroes. He has been an inspiration as well as a good friend to me and to so many of us here gathered today. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Gordon Felt.
Madam Vice President, Second Gentleman, President and Mrs. Bush, Secretary Holland, Governor Wolf, Captain Kurtz, Ambassador Kibben, Steve, Superintendent Clark, distinguished guests, families, friends, ambassadors, and all that join us today, near or far. I welcome you to the 20th Remembrance Ceremony of September 11th, 2001, here at the Flight 93 National Memorial. To the men and women that serve aboard the USS Somerset here today, and all of those active duty members and veterans in attendance, near and far, you honor us with your presence. And we must never forget that there are thousands of your brethren gravely injured or that have lost their lives while serving or as a result of their service during these past 20 years. Their loss reminds us that September 11th was not a singular event, but a date that marked a cultural paradigm shift in our country and for freedom-loving people across the globe. To the families of Flight 93 here and at home, honoring a loved one, my heart goes out to you. Having lost a brother on September 11th, I too live with a grief that is deep, consuming, and always present. For those that lost loved ones in the terrorist attacks on our country 20 years ago today, you know that we can never move on, but that we must continue to move forward. On September 11th, 2001, we lost a total of 2,977 innocent souls. And that morning, more than 6,000 people were injured in the attack on our country. 2,606 died in the World Trade Center, 125 at the Pentagon, and 246 innocent people were murdered on the 4 hijacked planes, 40 of which were on Flight 93, brought down here in a field just outside of Shanksville, Pennsylvania, as our heroes fought to overcome the evil brought to our shores that morning. To date, an additional 2,000 first responders that took part in the immediate rescue and continued recovery efforts have died from related illnesses. And with every month, we continue to lose more. The ripple effect of September 11th is unfathomable. There are still many questions to be answered about the day, facts to be declassified and released, and justice to be served. So much of September 11th involved pain, loss, and terror. Our lives were never to be the same. And yet, from the ashes of the day, stories of heroism and extraordinary courage emerged, providing hope to a world adrift in fear and confusion. First responders running into burning buildings with little regard for their own safety, while citizens inside those buildings refused to run from danger so that they could offer assistance and comfort to those less able, surely knowing that their decision would cost them all but their honor. And here in the skies over southwestern Pennsylvania, a group of 40 individuals, mostly strangers, when becoming aware of what was taking place on the ground that morning, found the courage to band together at a moment's notice, without regard for political, religious, professional, or cultural differences. Our 40, under extreme conditions, were able to change the course of history, averting the potential of our final image that fateful day being the Capitol dome, collapsed and on fire, the greatest symbol of our democracy in ruins. As the personification of that symbol, our heroes embraced the tenets of democracy that no expression of terrorism will ever extinguish. E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. Our heroes united. They formulated a plan when confronted by a great evil. They prayed. They voted on a course of action, and then they struck. Though in the process they lost their lives, there is no question that they won the first battle in this current war on terrorism. 35 minutes, 9:28 to 10:03 a.m. From the initial terrorist attack on Flight 93 until the moment the plane came down on our sacred ground. A lifetime, a moment, forever, yesterday. Here on the ground, first responders, aware of what was taking place in New York, at the Pentagon, and in the midst of fear and uncertainty, instinctively reacted to the horror that was brought to their rural community in a way that has forever altered their lives. These proud men and women of Somerset County and the surrounding region demonstrated everything that is awesome about the United States of America. Terrorism met rural America, proud, strong, determined. The relationship our families and our nation has forged with this local community is extraordinary. To our extended family here in the Somerset County region, you will forever have our complete gratitude. You have embraced us and the story of our loved ones in a selfless, fiercely protective fashion, even as you continue to move forward, carrying the pain and anguish thrust upon your community 20 years ago. Recently, I was listening to former Congressman Trey Gowdy discussing the ultimate sacrifices made by our men and women in uniform. During his remarks, I was struck by a common theme that I do not recall highlighted in prior years. It was a theme that I felt strongly was consistent with the story of the heroes of Flight 93 and all those we lost on September 11th. I experienced a moment of clarity that brought my understanding of heroism and of sacrifice to an uncomfortable reality, moving me to question who we are as a society. What struck such a nerve was not the annual reminder to honor and remember the thousands of lives ripped from the embrace of their families the morning of September 11th, 2001, including the 40 heroes of Flight 93. But rather the question to be considered is, are we worthy of their sacrifice? Are we worthy? Do we as individuals, communities, and as a country conduct ourselves in a manner that would make those that sacrificed so much and fought so hard on September 11th proud of who we have become? Do we share the same willingness to sacrifice for others in little ways as well as large? To act when necessary for no other reason than to accomplish a noble goal, egoless, and with no other motivation than to do what is right? Do we cherish the hard-earned freedoms that we enjoy, secured every generation by those willing to stand toe-to-toe with anyone or any country willing to steal them away? The real question that we must all ask ourselves is, have we as a society moved on and left the hard-earned lessons of September 11th behind? Have we become desensitized to what really happened that fateful morning? Have we diminished the courageous actions of these brave men and women, these heroes we honor today at the Flight 93 National Memorial, as well as those in New York City and at the Pentagon, by relegating their stories to the history books? As a country, we shouldn't seek to move on, but rather let us dedicate ourselves to moving forward, honoring and remembering the sacrifices made on September 11th, the lessons we learned, remembering the names, the individuals, and the collective actions of so many that day. Let us be worthy of the selfless sacrifices that were made. Let us remember who we became on September 12th. In the aftermath of September 11th, we saw beyond our differences so that in unity we could survive the devastation of the day. E pluribus unum. Out of many, we became one. That is the inspiration of September 11th. Whether it was in the air or on the ground that morning, heroism was revealed. History was made, and the course of our lives were changed forever. The path we follow is up to us. Let us strive to be worthy of those we lost that morning, our 40 heroes, our loved ones, and the thousands of other innocent lives extinguished that day and in the aftermath of September 11th. E pluribus unum. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordy. An enduring moment in the days after September 11th occurred when President George W. Bush used a bullhorn to speak to firefighters at Ground Zero in New York. His words provided sorely needed encouragement to a grieving country. A common thread of heroism running through each of the 3 attack sites on September 11th was the devotion to duty shown by our first responders. They made the nation proud then, and they continue to do that now. Thank you to all of our first responders across these great United States, for we are truly grateful for your service. I'm greatly honored now to present our next speaker, the 43rd President of the United States of America, George W. Bush. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Accompanying him today is First Lady Laura Bush, who occupies a special place in the hearts and families of Flight 93, for on September 17th, Mrs. Bush traveled here to offer her condolences and to those of America to the families and passengers of Flight 93. President Bush is fondly remembered by everyone involved in the effort to commemorate the heroes of Flight 93 for signing the act that created this national memorial on September 24th, 2002. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 43rd President of the United States, George W. Bush.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Laura and I are honored to be with you. Madam Vice President, Vice President Cheney, Governor Wolf, Secretary Holland, and distinguished guests. 20 years ago, we all found in different ways, in different places, but all at the same moment, that our lives would be changed forever. The world was loud with carnage and sirens, and then quiet with missing voices that would never be heard again. These lives remain precious to our country and infinitely precious to many of you. Today we remember your loss, we share your sorrow, and we honor the men and women you have loved so long and so well. For those too young to recall that clear September day, it is hard to describe the mix of feelings we experienced. There was horror at the scale of destruction, and awe at the bravery and kindness that rose to meet it. There was shock at the audacity of evil, and gratitude for the heroism and decency that opposed it. In the sacrifice of the first responders, in the mutual aid of strangers, in the solidarity of grief and grace, the actions of an enemy revealed the spirit of a people, and we were proud of our wounded nation. In these memories, the passengers and crew of Flight 93 must always have an honored place. Here, the intended targets became the instruments of rescue, and many who are now alive owe a vast, unconscious debt to the defiance displayed in the skies above this field. It would be a mistake to idealize the experience of those terrible events. All that many people could initially see was the brute randomness of death. All that many could feel was unearned suffering. All that many could hear was God's terrible silence. There are many who still struggle with a lonely pain that cuts deep within. In those fateful hours, we learned other lessons as well. We saw that Americans were vulnerable, but not fragile. That they possess a core of strength that survives the worst that life can bring. We learned that bravery is more common than we imagined, emerging with sudden splendor in the face of death. We vividly felt how every hour with our loved ones was a temporary and holy gift, and we found that even the longest days end. Many of us have tried to make spiritual sense of these events. There is no simple explanation for the mix of providence and human will that sets the direction of our lives. But comfort can come from a different sort of knowledge. After wandering long and lost in the dark, many have found they were actually walking step by step toward grace. As a nation, our adjustments have been profound. Many Americans struggled to understand why an enemy would hate us with such zeal. The security measures incorporated into our lives are both sources of comfort and reminders of our vulnerability. And we have seen growing evidence that the dangers to our country can come not only across borders, but from violence that gathers within. There is little cultural overlap between violent extremists abroad and violent extremists at home. But in their disdainful pluralism, in their disregard for human life, in their determination to defile national symbols, they are children of the same foul spirit, and it is our continuing duty to confront them. After 9/11, millions of brave Americans stepped forward and volunteered to serve in the armed forces. The military measures taken over the last 20 years to pursue dangers at their source have led to debate. But one thing is certain. We owe an assurance to all who have fought our nation's most recent battles. Let me speak directly to veterans and people in uniform. The cause you pursued at the call of duty is the noblest America has to offer. You have shielded your fellow citizens from danger. You have defended the beliefs of your country and advanced the rights of the downtrodden. You have been the face of hope and mercy in dark places. You have been a force for good in the world. Nothing that has followed, nothing, can tarnish your honor or diminish your accomplishments. To you and to the honored dead, our country is forever grateful. In the weeks and months following the 9/11 attacks, I was proud to lead an amazing, resilient, united people. When it comes to the unity of America, those days seem distant from our own. Malign force seems at work in our common life that turns every disagreement into an argument and every argument into a clash of cultures. So much of our politics has become a naked appeal to anger, fear, and resentment. That leaves us worried about our nation and our future together. I come without explanations or solutions. I can only tell you what I've seen. On America's day of trial and grief, I saw millions of people instinctively grab for a neighbor's hand and rally to the cause of one another. That is the America I know. At a time when religious bigotry might have flowed freely, I saw Americans reject prejudice and embrace people of Muslim faith. That is the nation I know. At a time when nativism could have stirred hatred and violence against people perceived as outsiders, I saw Americans reaffirm their welcome to immigrants and refugees. That is the nation I know. At a time when some viewed the rising generation as individualistic and decadent, I saw young people embrace an ethic of service and rise to selfless action. That is the nation I know. This is not mere nostalgia. It is the truest version of ourselves. It is what we have been and what we can be again. 20 years ago, terrorists chose a random group of Americans on a routine flight to be collateral damage in a spectacular act of terror. The 33 passengers and 7 crew of Flight 93 could have been any group of citizens selected by fate. In a sense, they stood in for us all. The terrorists soon discovered that a random group of Americans is an exceptional group of people facing an impossible circumstance. They comforted their loved ones by phone, braced each other for action, and defeated the designs of evil. These Americans were brave, strong, and united in ways that shocked the terrorists, but should not surprise any of us. This is the nation we know. And whenever we need hope and inspiration, we can look to the skies and remember. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. President, for those beautiful, insightful words. You know, President Bush and Mrs. Bush have visited here several times, and we are delighted, of course, to have them with us here today, now that the memorial has been completed. The design for this memorial, which so beautifully frames this site, is the work of Paul Murdoch Architects. A deeply felt thank you to Paul and Melina Murdoch, who are with us here today, and to their entire team for envisioning the memorial that has literally sculpted the landscape in an unforgettable manner, and which will be visited by millions of people for generations to come. Once again, thank you to Paul and Melina and your entire team. Thank you, sir. How could we not embrace, to my left, the incredible men and women of the President's own United States Marine Band? Formed in 1798, it's America's oldest continuously active professional musical organization. Think about that. Its mission is to perform for the United States President and the Commandant of the Marine Corps. We are truly privileged to enjoy this national treasure. Ladies and gentlemen, please once again join me in thanking and appreciating the incredible President's own. Thank you, Colonel. At this time, I am proud to welcome the Secretary of the United States Department of the Interior, Deb Haaland, the 54th person entrusted with that responsibility. She leads a department which employs more than 70,000 people, whose mission it is to protect and manage this country's natural resources, as well as our beautiful and absolutely powerful cultural heritage. Would you all please join me in welcoming Secretary Deb Haaland.
Thank you all so much. President Bush, thank you for your inspiring words. Madam Vice President, very honored to be here with you. Families, friends, active duty service personnel, thank you so much for the opportunity to join you all on this somber anniversary. 20 years ago, I was waking up to get my first grader ready for school and was stunned by the news on the radio. I rushed to turn on the TV and watch the imagery in disbelief. Like many parents, I nervously took my child to school. The pickup line was longer than usual that day. I know parents just wanted to hold their children close as soon as they could. Instead of being in a rush to get to their next event, soccer practice, or home for homework, parents, students, teachers, and school support staff joined hands around the school for a moment of silence. We mourned together. Every year on this day, we remember those we lost. We remember the first responders who ran in when everyone was running out. We remember the emergency crews who helped in the aftermath of that fateful day. We remember where we were and how we felt. And on this hallowed ground, we remember the heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice to save others. We honor their families, and we recognize the selfless patriotism they demonstrated on that September morning 20 years ago. It is with the support of the families of Flight 93, the Flight 93 Advisory Commission, the Flight 93 Memorial Task Force, Friends of Flight 93, and the National Park Foundation that this memorial serves as an enduring reminder of their bravery. There's no way to know how many lives these heroes saved, but we show our gratitude by visiting this place, gathering with loved ones, and most importantly, building a country where their children and grandchildren can thrive. Building a country of which they would be proud. We at the Interior Department will live up to that sacred responsibility by being good stewards of this memorial for generations to come. I appreciate everyone who works so hard every day, including our National Park Service employees and the volunteers, to care for this land, to honor it for those who were lost, so that we may never forget their sacrifice. My child is grown now. Many like them have little, if any, memory of that day when our nation came together in grief. But thanks to this memorial, they and other children will know the story of what happened here. A set of brave individuals who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Their story will live on. To continue our remembrance, it is my honor and privilege to introduce our esteemed Vice President, Kamala Harris.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. President Bush, it is my honor to be on this stage with you and Mrs. Laura Bush, and thank you, President Bush, for your words. They are as resonant today as the words you spoke 20 years ago. Governor Tom Wolf, Superintendent Stephen Clark, Madam Secretary, and the President of the Families of Flight 93, Gordon Feld. It is truly an honor to be with all of you at this field of honor. We are joined today, of course, by the family and friends of the 40 passengers and crew members of Flight 93. And we stand today with all those who lost someone on September 11th, 2001, and in the aftermath of the attacks. So many in our nation, too many in our nation, have deeply felt the passage of time these last 20 years. Every birthday, your loved one missed. Every holiday, every time her favorite team won or his favorite song came on the radio. Every time you've tucked in your children or dropped them off at college. You have felt every day, every week, and every year that has passed these 20 years. So please know your nation sees you, and we stand with you, and we support you. We are gathered today on hallowed ground, at this place that has been sanctified by sacrifice, to honor the heroism that the 40 passengers and crew members showed in the face of grave terrorism. I remember when I first learned about what happened on that fateful flight. What happened on Flight 93 told us then, and it still tells us, so much about the courage of those on board who gave everything they possibly could, about the resolve of the first responders who risked everything, and about the resilience of the American people. On this 20th anniversary, on this solemn day of remembrance, we must challenge ourselves, yes, to look back, to remember, for the sake of our children, for the sake of their children. And for that reason, we must also look forward. We must also look toward the future. Because in the end, I do believe that is what the 40 were fighting for. Their future and ours. On the days that followed, September 11th, 2001, we were all reminded that unity is possible in America. We were reminded also that unity is imperative in America. It is essential to our shared prosperity, to our national security, and to our standing in the world. And by unity, I don't mean uniformity. We had differences of opinion in 2001, as we do in 2021. And I believe that in America, our diversity is our strength. At the same time, we saw after 9/11 how fear can be used to sow division in our nation. As Sikh and Muslim Americans were targeted because of how they looked or how they worshiped. But we also saw what happens when so many Americans, in the spirit of our nation, stand in solidarity with all people and their fellow American, with those who experience violence and discrimination, when we stand together. And looking back, we remember the vast majority of Americans were unified in purpose to help families heal, to help communities recover, to defend our nation, and to keep us safe. In a time of outright terror, we turned toward each other. In the face of a stranger, we saw a neighbor and a friend. That time reminded us the significance and the strength of our unity as Americans, and that it is possible in America. So, moments from now, we will leave this hallowed place, still carrying with us the pain of this loss, this tremendous loss, and still, the future will continue to unfold. We will face new challenges, challenges that we could not have seen 20 years ago. We will seize opportunities that were at one time unimaginable. And we know that what lies ahead is not certain. It is never certain. It has never been. But I know this. If we do the hard work of working together as Americans, if we remain united in purpose, we will be prepared for whatever comes next. The 40 passengers and crew members of Flight 93, as we all know, they didn't know each other. Most of them didn't know each other. They were different people from different places. They were on that particular flight for different reasons. But they did not focus on what may separate us. No, they focused on what we all share, on the humanity we all share. In a matter of minutes, in the most dire of circumstances, the 40 responded as one. They fought for their own lives and to save the lives of countless others at our nation's capital. After today, it is my hope and prayer that we continue to honor their courage, their conviction, with our own, that we honor their unity by strengthening our common bonds by strengthening our global partnerships, and by always living out our highest ideals. This work will not be easy. It never has been. And it will take all of us believing in who we are as a nation. And it will take all of us going forth to work together. Thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you again, Madam Vice President. Beautiful words. Before this national memorial was created, local residents, calling themselves ambassadors, took responsibility to watch over this hallowed ground and welcome visitors from near and far. Next year in January, we will mark the 20th anniversary, of that group. I would like to thank everyone who has given their time as a Flight 93 ambassador over the years, as you are, in many ways, the heart and soul of this very special place. Thank you all. Folks, it's literally over 10,000 hours a year by our ambassadors. Every day of the year, including those bitter, cold Western Pennsylvania February mornings, you will see, yes ma'am, our ambassadors. They're truly incredible people, and again, they were here since day one. As we close, if I may, today I am wearing a watch worn by my great-uncle William Joseph Clark, who was killed in the First World War. I wear it just 3 times a year. Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and September 11th. It is a cherished heirloom and an instrument which marks the passage of time. 20 years, the amount of time since September 11, 2001, is but a brief span in the history of this great nation. Time. We will always remember what happened more than 200 years ago at Independence Hall, where our country was born and our Constitution was signed. Time. We will always remember what happened more than 150 years ago at countless fields when our country fought an internal conflict from which it emerged even stronger and even more than united than ever. Time. We will always remember what happened more than 100 years ago when our nation joined the struggle to make the world safe for democracy and secured voting rights for women here at home. Time. We will always remember what happened more than 50 years ago across this country when brave citizens risked their lives to make our nation live up to its founding principles. Time. And undoubtedly, we shall always remember what happened 20 years ago today, when an attack on our nation brought forth an inspiring display of courage from 40 passengers and crew members aboard Flight 93. Again, confronted by an unprecedented situation, they drew upon reserves of inner strength, acted, and saved many lives. Time. As the years go by, the passage of time will only strengthen the importance of their story and this place in the history of our nation. Let us never forget what they did here. Let us always remember the lives lost that day in New York, at the Pentagon, and here in this field of honor. Among the more than 400 sites cared for by the National Park Service and many of our sacred historic places. This hallowed ground next to us, the resting place of the 40 heroes of Flight 93. Ladies and gentlemen, your loved ones is such a place. It too is one of the most important sites in our country, a place where brave men and women made history and shaped the future. When the events of September 11th have passed from living memory, this memorial, created through the tireless efforts of so many, will allow future generations to remember the inspiring story of Flight 93. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we truly are grateful to all of you for making and taking time on this special, special day to join us in remembering and honoring the 40 heroes whose names are inscribed on that wall. To those around the world, to everyone with us here today, and our cherished, cherished family members, thank you all so very, very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until the ceremonial gate has been opened.
woods and templed hills, my heart with rapture thrills like that above. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I see. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's Pride, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. Let freedom, let freedom ring.
Now, the families of Flight 93 are invited to the Wall of Names and the sacred ground for a private wreath-laying ceremony. Thank you for attending today's service.